streaks of red light appeared on Peng Li's hands and connected to Chen Xiaoxiao's body. Her ability code is Priest, which can enhance Chen Xiaoxiao's strength, speed, and defense, and quickly heal her from any non-fatal injuries. Chen Xiaoxiao, on the other hand, stood in front of her, her body strengthened by the enhancement ability. At the same time, the bottom of the long red boots she was wearing on her feet clanked and a long blade popped out. Facing Nobunaga's unadorned but extremely fast sword, she kicked fiercely, and the blade on her right foot blocked it. Bing! The blades collided, and the immense force directly sent Chen Xiaoxiao flying. But she gracefully landed in midair and then deftly danced on the snow. Nobunaga gazed down at his feet. The ground had been frozen by her into a huge ice rink. Donning ice skates, she began to twirl around, looking for the right moment to strike. "Oh?" Nobunaga said indifferently. He did not try to track Chen Xiaoxiao's movements, and even slowly closed his eyes in front of the two of them. A field with a radius of 50 meters centered on him began to appear. This is one of his abilities, Tianyuan. With himself at the center, he sits in the center of the chessboard, and within a 50-meter radius, everything is within the range of his sword. Chen Xiaoxiao danced quickly on the ice, looking for Nobunaga's flaws. However, in the process, she was surprised to find that Nobunaga, who was in the sword-drawing position, did not have the slightest flaw. Plus, there were Nanako Mizumi and Takashi Takizawa nearby, which made it impossible for Chen Xiaoxiao to concentrate. Just as she became distracted, Nobunaga noticed her hesitation. No one saw how his right hand drew the sword, only a red streak cutting through the air. And where the sword's blade passed, Chen Xiaoxiao's leaping body was severed. Her waist was neatly cut open, and even the incision of her muscles and intestines was smooth as a mirror. Because the sword was so fast, she didn't even have time to feel the pain. Nobunaga's sword was too fast. A master of the Ei slash could draw his sword so fast that it could split a bullet. As a swordsman of the Nitin-Ichiryu school, Nobunaga's sword speed could also reach this level. After becoming a mutant, no one knows how fast his sword really was. However, one thing is recorded in Izumo, one of the two major organizations in Neon. Among the 13 people of the Eclipse Moon, if they are ranked according to combat power, Nobunaga is number 2. Chen Xiaoxiao's 2 body segments were thrown into the air. This result made her pupil shrink violently, and for the first time in her life, she felt such despair and powerlessness. Peng Li was also scared pale, but fortunately, the 2 beams of light of blessing in her hands were still connected to Chen Xiaoxiao. She shouted, and hurriedly dragged Chen Xiaoxiao's remains back. Peng Li used the power of the priest to connect the 2 halves of Chen Xiaoxiao's body in midair. Fortunately, Nobunaga's sword was too fast, and the cut was as neat as a mirror surface, so it was quick to stitch together. Chen Xiaoxiao stood on the ground with a pale face and staggering footsteps. Just now, all the blood in her body had gone cold. The clean cut remained in the position of her lower abdomen, a ring of blood slowly trickling down her snow-white skin. It looked as if it had been sewn together with great difficulty, and one feared that the upper half of her body would fall off if she moved even slightly. Peng Li said nervously, "Don't move again. You're hurt too badly, and it will take time to heal you." But they both knew that there was no time for them. Right now, it was a matter of certain death. "What? It's just some random fish." Nobunaga let out a long, bored sigh as he sheathed his sword. He was so disappointed. He had thought he had encountered the elite this time. But who would have thought that they would be so weak? They weren't even worthy of him drawing his sword. "Hurry up and finish them off," Nanako Mizumi said. "Don't worry." Nobunaga looked up into the distance. Perhaps the real opponent has just appeared. The fog billowed, and 3 figures slowly walked out. Not bad, very keen intuition. The man leading the group gave a wicked smile at the corner of his mouth, and he tilted his head to look at Nobunaga Miyamoto, especially the katana in his hand. "What era is this, still playing samurai games here?" Peng Li and Chen Xiaoxiao saw them and, as if they had seen their saviors, shouted excitedly, "You've finally arrived." The three people who had arrived were precisely the members of the Heavenly God Squad. The man leading the group also held a sword in his hand, but it was a very, very large sword, heavy like a set of doors. His face was tattooed with mysterious symbols, which made him look extremely strange and gave people the impression that he was unfathomable. At this time, Zhang Yi and the others also arrived. Originally, Zhang Yi had wanted Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li to lure out Eclipse Moon, and then he would take care of the rest. However, he never expected that the Heavenly God Squad would arrive first. Xiao Tianyi, a member of the Heavenly God Squad, glanced at Zhang Yi and said in a cold tone, "You've wasted enough time. We've been ordered to take over the battlefield." "Perfect. Take these two useless women with you. And leave immediately. The next battle is no longer something that mutants of your level can interfere with." Liang Yu didn't say anything after hearing this, but just glanced at Zhang Yi. The corner of Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slightly. He shrugged his hands. "Since the professionals are here, there is no need for us to stay here. Retreat." After saying this, he looked at Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li, his gaze naturally falling on the terrifying wound on Chen Xiaoxiao's waist. "Can you still walk?" Chen Xiaoxiao had just been holding on for a long time. After all, she had been cut in half, and it would take a long time to recover. She pursed her lips, a little embarrassed to make eye contact with Zhang Yi. At this moment, she deeply regretted her initial blind decision. Zhang Yi's caution was well-founded. They had both underestimated the strength of Eclipse Moon. Zhang Yi gave Flower a wink, when suddenly, Flower enlarged himself. Flower came up to Chen Xiaoxiao and lay down gently. Peng Li quickly helped Chen Xiaoxiao onto Flower's back, and her hands never stopped healing Chen Xiaoxiao's injuries. Zhang Yi didn't want to delay the fight between the mutants, so he immediately led the others away. After walking for a while, he heard Chen Xiaoxiao's weak voice in his ear. "Zhang Yi, thank you." Zhang Yi glanced at her. "You don't need to thank me, it was just a coincidence." Chen Xiaoxiao's face was a strange red, partly from internal injuries and partly from shame. Peng Li, however, sighed with a sense of loss. "We came on this mission thinking we could make a difference, but who would have thought it would end up being a joke?" The huge gap in strength made them realize the reality. But they can't be blamed for this. After all, this was their first encounter with Eclipse Moon. Back then, they were unchecked and invincible in their own city, and their experiences made them overestimate their own strength. Liang Yu, however, leaned over to Zhang Yi's ear and whispered, "Why didn't you intervene just now? With your strength, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to deal with the three of them, right?" Zhang Yi looked at her and asked in return, "Do you know what strength the other party has?" Liang Yu was momentarily stunned, and then said, "No matter how strong they can't be stronger than you, right? You are the one who was able to ambush and kill even Yuan Kongyue." Zhang Yi said, "That's because I planned in advance for a long time, collected a large amount of intelligence, and drove many people to be my pawns, before finally winning with difficulty. Remember, never underestimate any opponent. Don't rely on instinct to evaluate your opponent, and blindly fight with confidence. The reason we came here was out of the last shred of morality in our hearts. It wasn't to seek the limelight or gain any mission points. Now that the Heavenly God Squad has intervened, let them fight to the death." Liang Yu looked at Zhang Yi's determined yet slightly lazy profile and couldn't help but burst out laughing. "I really can't read you anymore," Zhang Yi said. "You don't need to read me, just follow my lead." When they left, Nobunaga and the others didn't care at all. In their opinion, these people were just small fries, and the members of the Heavenly God Squad in front of them were the real opponents. But at this moment, the voice of Satoru Shimano came from the minds of the three Eclipse members. "Nobunaga, Ryuzaki, and Watase, are you three okay? Please respond if you receive this." The three looked at each other, feeling inexplicable. Because Satoru Shimano's voice was very anxious, as if something terrible had happened. Nobunaga responded, "We're fine." "What happened?" After receiving Nobunaga's response, Satoru Shimano let out a sigh of relief. He looked over at Mayumi Takeuchi, who was not far away, hugging her head with a look of confusion and fear on her face, and slowly said to the three of them, "Just now, the three of you disappeared from Mayumi's fortune-telling." Mayumi Takeuchi, the 37th generation priestess of the Eclipse Moon Group, was in the midst of deep self-doubt. Her greatest asset, the Takeuchi Amaki scroll, had just lost its power. It was as if something had forcibly erased her prophetic powers. Therefore, Phoenix Rin immediately asked Satoru Shimano and Nobunaga to contact the three of them. Satoru Shimano relayed to Phoenix Rin that they were safe. "No, there must be something in that place that is blinding me," Mayu Takeuchi said in a grave tone. "I can't see. I really can't see anything."